the Health Committee meeting. It's May 3rd, 2022 at 9 a.m. Would you please take roll, Nathan?
Bard,
Yeah, here.
Curtis.
Yes.
Awful.
Here. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Take it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Have you all looked at the claims that you got in your emails? If so, may I have
No, I.
may I have a motion to accept the claims?
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Take roll, please.
Bard,
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes. All right, motion carried. Any public comments? Animal control will be in here pretty soon in a little bit. So we'll go ahead with Dee Shippard on the Public Health Department.
Good morning.
Report. Good morning.
So before we get started with the health department, I wanted to make an animal control comment, if I may.
Okay.
I just want you, as a committee, to know how pleased the health department is with what they're doing down there with Jill and
Good.
Amanda's work. It's just been very, very smooth. At least as far as the bite side, when we're doing a bite investigation and an animal has to be quarantined and then released, or we have to find out if the animal has been vaccinated before we do our investigation. It's just been so smooth. I'm so very pleased, and my staff is so very grateful because they're Johnny on the spot. They get the information to us right away. There's no delay at all. It's not the ideal situation, I know, without a veterinarian, but they're doing a terrific job, and I just wanted you guys to know that
For
because
getting it handed over in the way they did, I mean, my goodness.
yeah, I mean seriously, I
Little bit of time they had to do it.
want you to know that Jill's giving it 100%. So
Yes, she is.
I think that's commendable. I really do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's on top of all the other things she had.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, she's really, as far as as our part of it. Yeah. Anytime we ask her for any information, she gets it for us right away and helps us with that. So that's important. And that's important when you're determining whether someone needs rabies prophylaxis or not, because that is time sensitive, and we don't want to end up in a situation in Iroquois County like they recently had down in Florida where somebody died because they didn't get the vaccine in a timely manner. So because we know that rabies is still out there.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to make that comment to you.
Yes.
I'm sure that you hear enough complaints that sometimes it's nice to hear something good,
That's
right?
right. Well, yeah.
Yeah, especially when we're all doing the best we can. Okay, so would you rather go over the summary report of programs for us, or you want to talk COVID first?
Well, let's go with COVID.
Okay, so here's where we're at with the COVID. For new cases in April, we had 49 new cases in the county. But you have to remember that most people right now are doing home testing rather than laboratory confirmed testing, which is what we received. Some people will call us and tell us that they took a home test and it was positive, and we are now allowed by the state to record that into INEDs. So we take somebody's word, we ask them all the questions, we do the appropriate investigation, but we don't require that they show us a laboratory confirmed test result. So we have a few people who want to have that record in the state system, but for the most part, these are all laboratory confirmed tests that come to us through through INEDs or through Salesforce. So there are a lot more cases out there than what we know about, and that's okay. We're getting to the point where people have to start self-managing this now.
Are they still calling this a pandemic, or?
They're still calling it a pandemic. Some of the so like there are a lot of areas across the United States that are seeing it a little upswing again. You saw that New York went back to masking, but we had 76 cases in March and then in April 49. So we're still on a decrease, which is good, I think, in Iroquois County. Now, every week's different. Last week, there were 12 cases this 2 weeks ago, and then this past week there were 21. So we saw a little bit of an uptake, but the case numbers were so low, we knew that we were going to see something come up. We've had 7,223 total cases to date. And that is from March of 2020 through the current time.
From when?
From March of 2020, from our
Okay.
first case.
Yeah, okay.
So 7,223 recorded cases. Iroquois County population that is fully vaccinated, we're sitting at 48.77%, so almost half. If you want to break that down by ages, so 5-year-olds to 11-year-olds, it's 11.41%. 12 to 17-year-olds, it's 31.13%. Those ages 18 to 64, it's 53.54%. And those 65 and older, it's 81.22%. So not too bad. I'd like to be a little higher. I think that the national average is at 70%, 77% of the population of the United States is fully vaccinated. So we're quite a bit lower than that, but it's always hard in a rural setting to get everybody to be vaccinated. So that's where we're at with COVID. The grant money is still available, so we still have grant money available to help people if they are test positive for COVID and they're sick and they're isolated for 5 days and need help with groceries or household items. All they have to do is give us a call. We'll be happy to help them. Still have grant funds available for that. If they need help with finding treatment if they're really sick and want antibody therapy or some of the new treatments that are out, the new recommended treatments that are out, we can help them find those. So we still get calls a lot. We're still giving boosters, especially that second booster for those people who would like their second booster. We're happy to do that. So we're still here. We're still doing it.
Are there quite a few still being hospitalized or deaths?
We're not seeing hospitalizations like we were. No. And the cases that we're seeing tend to be milder as time goes on, which I hope we continue to see that. We'll see. We haven't seen a lot of B2, yet, and they're predicting that that's going to come around, but they are predicting that it will be milder, but it will be very prevalent. So we'll see when that happens.
Now, is there another booster out or anything?
To my knowledge, they have not talked about anything past what we are currently offering, or don't have it ready at this time. So we'll see what happens. I have told you this before, but I think that this will become endemic, like a seasonal thing, and I think that the strains in the vaccine will change over time, just like they do with the flu strains. Every year, the flu vaccine has different strains in it. I think that will happen as well with COVID. I think you'll see different COVID viral strains, put into COVID vaccines yearly, so that you achieve a better immunity.
I hear on the news that they are working to have vaccines for very youngsters.
Yeah, they asked at one point in time for FDA approval and did not get it. So I think they if you're going to vaccinate under ages 6 months to 5 years, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you better have a lot of research data and a lot of supportive studies. And I think that's just going to take time to get those studies done. But
Now, are pregnant women able to get the shot?
they are. Now, some health departments require a note from the OBGYN and some don't. We happen to require it. So, You know, I am very careful about not putting up barriers for people. I don't want people who want the vaccine to have barriers, but I also felt like I needed to make sure that liability-wise, we were protected during that as well. Because the research studies on pregnant women were not as extensive as the general population ones, and I am very cautious about that. So,
Very good.
so that's it for COVID, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so if you look at our summary report of programs. Oh, and before we get to that, let me let you know what else is kind of going on at the health department. So every year, we typically, what you do is you start writing your state grant period starts July 1st. Okay, that's the state fiscal year. It's July 1 to June 30th. So our grants usually start on July 1 and run through June 30th. So in order to have them approved in in June, we usually write them in May. But the state was kind of on the ball this year. This is one of the first years, for a long time we were writing them after July. Remember how we were literally writing some of them in August, and they were backdated till July the last few years because of all this. They did the opposite this year and got them out to us early. So our comprehensive health protection grant, which is our big 7 grant bundle from IDPH, I submitted it right away when I got it. We've already gotten it approved and it's already been signed.
Awesome.
And so it's a done deal. I went ahead and submitted vision and hearing, and any grants that we've gotten early, I've submitted them right away. I don't want to sit on them. I want to be one of the first ones to get them in. The state did put out a notice on Friday that said that only 32 health departments, so like 60 health departments, still hadn't turned their comprehensive in, and we'd already even gotten ours signed and approved. So, yeah, I like getting them in, and I love that we're doing them early, and then I know where we're at. I think that's a good thing. So,
Right on the ball.
yeah, and I'm glad to see the state finally doing it.
What is that grant worth?
That one I think is $104,000. It's a bundled grant, so it's like tanning, body art, a lot of our smaller ones put together.
Yeah.
But it's $104,000, so it's a nice one. But it's our big comprehensive, so it has local health protection grant money in it, which is about $66,000. And that is what we call our open door money. So that's the only grant money that we get that's really not tied to a specific grant that has to be done by meeting these deliverables. Local health protection is in that comprehensive health protection, and local health protection is kind of your front door money. Kind of helps health departments use that for things that they can't get a grant for, and they let us write our own deliverables for that. So I like doing that, and then I can use it for what we need. If you look at the first page of the summary report under environmental health, this is the same report every month, and sometimes I read all these numbers down to you, and then I hate for Amanda to have to write it all, when it comes to the reporting. Do you think that we could start just attaching this to the report, and then she doesn't have to write it all?
There you go.
That would just save her a bunch of writing.
Absolutely.
And then everybody could see it.
Yeah.
And then people can ask questions, anything that they want, as we go. Obviously, we're doing food inspections. We've got those separated out so that we're trying to do it, around 30 to 40 a month. We're getting some temporary food permits. Now we're going to get into the summer season where we're really going to see the temporary food permits go up.
Yeah.
Do you have a question, Roger?
Yeah, permits issued, I see, to date it's 186, and fiscal year was 197, and fiscal year 21 was 200. So
Yep.
we're
about 14 places under what we were last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what are those food permits?
Yeah, those are some of them are people who, had like, trailers that went around the county,
Yeah,
and sold food. Some of them were actually establishments. Some of them were level one, they were all levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3. So low risk, medium risk, high risk. Some of them, the low risk are like gas stations that have closed, things like
Okay.
that. But we're about 14 under.
so with the fair coming up, why, probably,
Well, those are just temporary ones, so those won't be a permit.
Oh,
That'll be a temporary permit.
yeah.
These are the permits are the full-time ones.
Yeah.
The temporary ones, yeah, we'll see that just skyrocket in the summer.
Okay,
Yeah, and we lowered the fees for that a year or so ago from $75 to $25 to make it more economical for people who want a temporary food permit. Because, for example, if you're selling popcorn, let's say you're selling popcorn, and kettle corn or something like that, and you just want to go to harvest days and sell. So you'd have to sell a lot of popcorn to get your $75 back, So we wanted to make it more reasonable for people. And we're going to be doing that with Farmers Market. That bill passed, and I was, that bill was co-sponsored by Tom Bennett, and I helped with that. So we'll be having
Explain that bill, will you?
yeah, the Farmers Market bill. See, what happened was some counties were using their permanent food permit fees for their farmers markets as well. And we have been doing that too. And one of the reasons that and you can see both sides, because if you're like, say, for example, say you're going to sell meat, okay? Say you're selling meat and you're selling ground hamburger. You've got a mom and pop grocery store, like say the one in Gilman, that sells meat too, okay? But you've got a farmer's market uptown in Gilman, and they're selling meat. If they're both selling meat, shouldn't they pay the same price? But yet, on the other hand, people at farmer's market could be selling eggs, and you don't want to have a $300 yearly fee when you go 12 times to sell eggs, and have that. You'd have to sell a lot too. That'd be a lot of eggs to have to sell to get your money, So what we decided to do with this was write different things into this so that it made it more fair. And we have to have, one of the things that I didn't agree with, but got written into it anyway, was that you have to have a public hearing. So we're going to have a public hearing sometime. I'll just have an open public hearing. I'll use this room, and we'll have an open public hearing, and we'll let the farmers market people come in and talk to me about the fees, and then I'll listen to what they have to say. I will then come up with a plan that I take to the Board of Health, a recommendation, and then the Board of Health will vote to decide what those fees will be, because by state statute, the Board of Health sets those fees. Now, the fees have to be capped at $170. They can't go over $175, which is actually kind of a good thing. Some of the bigger counties where they're charging $500 and $600 for a food permit, we're charging the same thing for a farmer's market fee.
Wow.
And that's for the season though. So, but if you went, say, 12 times, it'd take a lot to get your money back, So it's capped now at $175 for farmers markets. We can set it anything below that. And to be honest with you, I'm thinking we're going to go a lot lower than that. That'll
will this be on
depend.
a case-by-case basis?
No, we'll set one fee for farmers markets, and what we may do is split it up and say, if you're doing general farmers market, it's this fee. If you're doing only eggs, it's this fee.
Yeah.
Because those people who sell only eggs at a farmer's market can't sell eggs at a farmer's market if,
Egg prices are going up.
yeah. But
Everything else.
yeah, everything is. So, but what we want to do, at least what I want to do as the public health administrator, my goal is public safety. To make sure that people have safe food to eat, that these foods are held at the appropriate temperatures, that they don't have salmonella. And one of the things I did was I explained to the group about, I told some stories, some true stories. For example, a few years ago, several years ago, we had a local farmer who was selling meat that he had processed on a farm. He was unregulated, we didn't know about it. He was selling it to people. People bought the meat. He didn't have the appropriate hand washing station, so he didn't wash, rinse, sanitize. And as he was processing his meat, E. coli got into the meat, and he sold meat to a family. The family got very sick. The child had ended up in the hospital with severe kidney damage,
Oh my
and
goodness.
because the child went to a daycare and had diarrhea and was touching, you know how kids touch their butts and scratch them and touch toys, and you know it happens. It just does. It does. Every kid at the daycare got diarrhea.
Oh my gosh.
Two of the kids at the daycare ended up, one of them needed a kidney transplant,
Oh
and the
my
other one had
Lord.
a severe kidney problem. Because you end up with Shiga toxin producing E. coli, and you're gonna ruin your kidneys. So it's our job as public health to investigate that and get it stopped. You know, and what happened was, as soon as I figured that out, the first question I had was, does this child go to a daycare? I contact the daycare provider, and she goes, actually, we're closed because all the kids have diarrhea. I'm like, yeah, let me get over there, you know.
Oh,
So then I start contacting the other parents. We get a hold of all the parents, get them in, get the kids tested. Can't get a hold of one parent because that kid was already in Peoria, and the parents were in the hospital with that child already. You know, so public health has its place in keeping
Yes.
people safe. We stopped that because eventually that would have spread to more people, and you know, we've got a job to do. But it's never my intention to hurt our local farmers.
yeah.
We want them to be able to sell their product. I love farmers market stuff, and we want them to do good. We just have to work together with them, and there's no reason why we can't work together and make it. You know, our health department is not a for-profit health department. All we need to do is get our costs covered and make sure that people have safe things, and you know, there's no reason why we can't make these fees reasonable for them. So we'll figure it out
Yep.
together with them and get it done.
Well, thanks for explaining that, because I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I worked with Tom Bennett for quite a while on that. In fact, I called Tom Bennett and asked him to co-sponsor the bill when it came around. Yeah.
Is there a difference between a farmer's market and a roadside stand selling sweet corn?
No, there really isn't. But if they're selling non-cut sweet corn, the health department doesn't have any jurisdiction. We only have jurisdiction over things that are processed. So if they're selling sweet corn right out of the field and it's still in the husks, yes, we have no jurisdiction over them.
They don't need a permit?
They don't need a permit.
What if they're selling other vegetables?
If anything is cut, once it's opened or cut, then that's where we have jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Some of that's good to know, because there are quite a few roadside stands around the county. There's even some people come in from Indiana,
yeah,
Right.
right,
That's
right there in town.
right. And as long as it's not, they're not selling cut, but like say they're selling cantaloupe and they cut it in half and sell you half, that's where we come in to
Or
Definitely.
bacteria can.
yeah. So yeah. So we're gonna see a lot of the temporary food permit stuff popping up here this summer, and I hope so. It's time to get back to all that.
Yeah.
You know, living life and going places and enjoying good
Having
food.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. We're meant to be social beings. It's okay. We just have to do it smart. So you can see that we did 34 water samples, and only 2 of those were non-satisfactory. So those will be followed up with. We did 10 non-community water places. And then you can look at our wells, our private sewage disposal. We just had 1 permit issued for that. We didn't do any solid waste hauler truck inspections. We usually do those in the winter. We don't do those in the summer.
What do you inspect in a garbage truck?
You just have to make sure that they're not leaking,
Oh, okay.
that everything is maintained, that they're dumping right, you know, that kind of thing. But mostly it's that they're not leaking. So as they're driving down the highway, they're not leaking stuff that gets into your ditches and into your waterways.
Good to know, I never knew that.
Yeah. And it's a little more complicated than that. That's the short version of it. We're gonna start West Nile virus stuff. You guys, we put a press release out last week. We're gonna start collecting birds here. A regular tobacco compliance inspections. We did 4 radon kits. We had 2 nuisance complaints and 2 sewage complaints that were investigated. And then you can see our immunizations. We did 160, look at that. So we went from 35 in March to, in April, we did 160
Wow.
COVID. People are finally realizing that nobody's growing a 3rd arm from your COVID vaccine. Let's be honest.
How many deaths have we had in the county on that?
132. 132 of people have died within the 10-day period after they tested positive for COVID. Doesn't mean that they didn't have another underlying health condition that contributed to their death. It just means that that was within that 10 days. And in that 132 people, COVID contributed to everybody's death, even if they would, were at end of life stages anyway. This exacerbated it,
Yeah.
obviously.
Right.
So, yeah. We didn't have any new TB cases to investigate, which is what I'm watching. You know, if you've been listening to international news, the TB cases worldwide are just skyrocketing, and I'm worried about that. That keeps me awake at night. So, every time we have a month that we don't have any new cases in Iroquois County, I'm going to be very happy. And you can just go through and see, look at our community educational presentations. I'm so proud of that. You know, we have a health educator now. She's out doing babysitting classes. We're doing all these CPR classes. We're doing all this health education in the schools. We're doing programs at the ARC. We're doing programs, all over the county. And I am really happy about that, because if you really want to make a difference and teach people good habits, you got to do education with them. You have to. Especially the kids. That's when you got to teach them, is when they're young. We saw only 8 inmates, so that's not a huge amount. We saw 2,285 students through school health services. Vision and hearing screenings are done right now. We've kind of completed those, so they'll pick up again when we start doing the pre-screenings for the preschools. That'll pick up here again next month. But we've done a good job with that. And then our senior services program, our numbers are increasing. We now have 189 clients on services, seniors in the community care program. And I want to tell you guys this one more time. We still have money available for people who are 60 and older. If you have anyone, there's no eligibility requirements. Anyone ages 60 and older in Iroquois County who needs help can call the health department, and we can help them with their groceries. We can help them with walkers and wheelchairs and grab bars for their bathrooms. That's what we wrote this grant for. So we have money available to help people, and we want people to call us, and we keep advertising it and advertising it. After you advertise, you get an influx of calls, and then it dies down. So we still have quite a bit of funding left, and we want to help people.
Dee, do you have the wording from what you advertised?
Yeah.
You could send to me, just email it to me.
Sure, absolutely.
And we'll be able to post that. I'll have to start make a note to post it once a week.
Well, how about if I just put you on our press release list?
That would be good.
So when we send out those press releases, you get them too.
Yeah, because,
Perfect.
we will.
But I'll go back and do this. Yeah.
Yeah, just shoot it to me and we'll just.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
write down your email address for me, and then I'll make sure you're on our press release
Okay, I can do that.
list.
Yep.
There's like 200 people on our press release list already. We don't mind adding another one.
That's right.
But anybody, so if you have parents, grandparents that could use a little help, there's no income eligibility, we don't ask about their assets, we don't ask, if they can use some help, we're here, that's what we wrote the grant for, so.
Definitely. Yeah, I can send out to the mayors again too,
Yeah,
and the board members there.
yeah, the only eligibility requirement for that is that they have to be an Iroquois County resident and they have to be age 60 or older, and that's it. So, okay, you guys have questions for me?
Any questions, guys? I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Thank
Judy.
you,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Jill, do you have an animal control?
I do, sorry, I was in the chair.
No, that's all right.
Alright, so last month, we closed 18 cases. Those were 6 owners found, 6 owner relinquished requests, which we gave resources to because we weren't taking any relinquished animals for just any odd reason, we don't have space. 3 well checks, 2 of them were given education and 1 was unfounded. 2 lost dog notifications and 1 running loose owner redemption. We have 9 currently open. We have 5 dog bites. We have 3 dogs right now that we're holding. They were found running loose. One of those 3 was found in an abandoned house. They got evicted and left the dog tied up there, so. And then we have 1 dog-on-dog attack that they're investigating. We brought in $5,530 in registration deposits. We had, one of those owners did end up relinquishing to iCare, but that was on their own. We just gave resources. We did have some progress with the animal control building. We got to see some prints yesterday, so that was nice. Watching a pit bull hoarding issue in the La Hogue area. Also, we had some donkey wellness calls, so we're watching that one. And then we're also working with the state's attorney in an animal cruelty investigation where we did an emergency impoundment of 65 animals.
Ooh.
So,
Where did they go?
we're working with a sanctuary
We
outside of
can't
Bourbonnais.
say. We can't say.
No, I know, yeah, so we worked hard to find, a sanctuary that is involved with us right now. And I can't say enough about them, they're wonderful.
Okay.
And then we also took in 2 bats. One of those bats couldn't be tested, because it had little to none brain matter left, and we didn't know that the lady had given it a good whack before.
Oh.
And then we have 1 that's, got sent out on the 2nd of May, so. That's where we're
Any
at.
questions for Jill? Thank you, Jill.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any old business? Do we have any new business? All right, seeing none, that may I have a motion to adjourn, please. Second. We are adjourned.